as early data scientists, right? Like, first, our aim is to sort of get a job. And then our aim suddenly becomes to get a promotion. But there are things in between, right? That you want to contribute to something. So, what I've seen, and I've also made this mistake, that you don't focus on the problem that you have at hand and get the best solution for it, but you rather focus on what is next. The concepts like root cause analysis, the concepts like data analysis, pattern recognition, right? Those I developed in Accenture, right? And those really, really helped me. So in terms of like learning data analysis and Python, right? So I got introduced to Python back in Accenture, where I used to write scripts to automate certain parts of the workflow, right? And here the LinkedIn culture had begun back in 2016, 2017, right? Even before that. So when I came in, I had like about 100 connections on LinkedIn. But by the time I found my first internship, I had around 1500. Data science as a field is about experimentations. You work on something, doesn't work, you work on it again, you iterate. So it is an iterative field. So one tip that I would give to all the candidates is try to do as many mock interviews as you can. So that gives you like a feeling of what it will be like in an interview. Do it with friends, right? And if you're earning enough, spend some money on this, right? Because that is the single most thing that can help you. What agentic AI will help us do is sort of automate these workflows that were very, very manual up until now. So, for example, writing SQL, right? Like you have a bunch of data sets. Even as a data scientist, you write a lot of queries day to day. Now, with the agentic AI coming up, this will be automated.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of our podcast, where we bring you inspiring stories from leaders who are shaping the future in data, technology, and passion. Today, we have a very special guest with us, someone who perfectly blends brains, impact, and humanity. She is a currently principal data scientist at Walmart Global Tech in California. Yes, one of the biggest companies in the world. Over the past few years, she had built a machine learning models that didn't just stay on paper, they actually turned into real products used by millions of customers, driving millions of revenue. But that's not all. She started her journey in Mumbai, studied engineering, worked at Accenture, and then went to do her master's in data science from the University of Washington. From working as an intern at Amazon Web Services to becoming a leader in one of the biggest tech teams at Walmart. Her journey is one full of hard work, bold moves, and smart decisions. She is passionate about solving real business problems, driving results with data, and mentoring future talents. So if you are a student, a fresher, or someone earlier in your data career, stay tuned because today's episode is packed with gold. From career tips, technical strategies, to real-world insights from one of the best in businesses. Please welcome our today's podcast guest, Avanti. Welcome to Chaitanya Data, the podcast where we unreveal the fantastic world of data and careers in tech. I'm your host Chaitanya, and today we have truly inspiring guest joining with us, Avanti. Okay, Avanti, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. It's a real pleasure to have you on the show.
Of course, thank you for having me, Chaitanya.
Yes, fantastic. Today we are going to navigate the exciting landscape of the data science career transition and what it truly takes to the building a success global careers in technologies. We all explored everything from childhood dreams to cutting edge AI trends. So let's start with your personal journey. Let's begin at the very beginning, Avanti. Many of our listeners are curious about the formation year of your success professional. Can you share a bit about your childhood and how those early experiences shaped your career dreams?
So I grew up in a small sort of chawl in Mumbai. My parents had typical middle class background back then. I was like put into an English medium school, which was a big thing for our family, right? And sort of began my journey from there, right? So I was always sort of taught to be curious about things, learn how to solve problems from the very beginning, right? So financially, like we were not super well to do. So sort of my main sort of growing up years were like sort to think about how to help the family, how to bring more financial stability in the house. So that's what my growing up years were all about. I started out with like taking tuitions, right, understanding understanding about the world, right? And eventually, when I graduated from the KJ Somaya College of Engineering, I got into Accenture, which is where I first got introduced to data and analytics, right? So I was a tester back then, right? Worked in Bangalore for a couple of years, and then sort of like got this. That was back in 2015, right? So that's where I got an interest into the analytics field, looking at different visualizations, like you're an expert of, right? And then sort of that sparked that, I should do something about it and go forward in my education.
That's a truly fantastic foundation. It's amazing how your earlier experience can set the stage for later ambitions.
Yeah.
Your journey then took a significant turn as you were moved from India to the US. What were the some of the most significant challenges you faced during that transition, both culturally and professionally?
Yeah, that's a good one, right? So culturally, definitely, right? So I actually got an admit into a couple of universities. One was Texas A&M and one was the University of Washington in Seattle, right? And I was excited about both of these universities. They were like my ambitious universities, right? Which I fortunately got into, right? But coming here was a daunting task, right? Like you're away from your family. Although like in India, you've been away, but it's still your own country, right? So you're pretty used to the culture over there. Here it was a culture shock for sure, right? You were away from your family. You were living with roommates in a house that you didn't know about, right? In a location where you had no information on, right? So that was my first sort of introduction to the US, right? Although I had a few friends over here who helped me like ease into the whole transition, so that really helped. Even my roommates were like pretty cool, so that helped. That part helped professionally also, right? Like there were things that I didn't know, right? I didn't know how to apply for jobs. I didn't know what networking means, right? And in India, like although I had 3 years of experience with Accenture back in India, so you do have that corporate experience, but it's sort of different, right? Like you get into this job right out of college, right? And then you come to a new country, and you have to start from scratch basically, right? So some amount of experience does help in terms of knowing what the culture would be, but you really have to do your own research in terms of how to apply for jobs, how to network with people, right? So I think those were the most challenging parts in sort of culturally and professionally after coming here.
Yes, yes, sir. It sounds like a remarkable feat to navigate those challenges. After that big move, you pursue your studies at the University of Washington, right? So, how did that academic experience help you grow, not just technically, but also as a leader?
So when you move away from home, right, that itself is an experience in leadership, right? That you figure things out on your own, right? You don't have cushion, right? Like your parents and your siblings you have at home, right? So that itself is good sort of first lesson in leadership, right? That how do you manage your own schedule? How do you manage your own needs, right? At that point. So that's one. Studying at the University of Washington was a big thing for me personally, right? So it's a big campus. There's so many talented people, so many students who are learning with you, right? So having that sort of a collaborative mindset that you work with people, you learn from each other and help each other get along this journey, right? That was something that was truly inspiring. Technically, right, like in University of Washington, it's needless to say they had amazing faculty, right, who sort of helped us sort of understand the world of data, right? So I remember one of our classes in the first quarter was research and analysis, right, which we had a professor who asked us to actually conduct surveys, right? That you select a few people to survey, you actually collect data, and then you analyze the data, right? So you have an understanding of okay how the data is collected firstly, right? Right now we're in the digital space, it's a different sort of ball game, right? But those foundational understandings of like how data is collected, how it's analyzed, and how it's presented overall, right? That was something that was shaped by my university back then.
Yes, yes. The things we saw or look into the Bollywood movies like University of Washington and University of Stanford that are really look like the same as in real, or is it different?
It is very very beautiful. So they maintain everything like it's beautiful, right? So University of Washington has this thing called cherry blossoms in the month of April, springtime, right? And you should see the campus. It's like nothing short of a Bollywood movie. Like it's beautiful, pink trees all around. People from the world sort of come to that place and sort of to take pictures, right? So it is, so you get that sort of traditional feeling as well, like you do when you see these movies, right? That it is definitely that for sure.
Yes, yes, yes. Because the thing that we saw in the movies, as of now, I haven't spoke anyone out from the Stanford or Washington. You are the first guest on my podcast that are speaking. KJ Somaya to directly University of Washington. You feel like, yeah, something different, right?
Yeah.
That
But as students, like that is like a afterthought in your mind. The first thought in your mind is how to manage your finances, right? Because I think like whenever we sort of step into a university abroad, right, we have probably taken a big sort of a loan, right? Or like an educational anything from relatives or from friends or from the bank, right? So visiting the US and realizing your Bollywood dreams is like a second afterthought. First is like, okay, how do I get a part time job to sort of get into the groove of things, try to earn some money and manage your own livelihood? Right. So I think that's the sentiment of most international students at the beginning.
yes, yes, yes. The University of Washington clearly plays a pivotal role in your development, right?
Yeah.
So now let's talk about your professional trajectory. Before your US journey, you worked at Accenture in India, right? So what specific skills did you develop there that your skills find incredible valuable in your current role, even with the tech giants like Amazon?
So I'd like to actually begin from before Accenture, right? So in when you're an engineering student, basically you try to, so in India we call it jugaad, right? So we manage things, right? So we try to solve problems. So that is, I think, the foundation of all the skills that you learn from then onwards, right? So the curiosity and the ability to solve problems, that is, I think, is embedded in you right from when you're studying as an engineer and then you're sort of transitioning into a job, right? Now, Accenture specifically, as I said, I was a tester in the beginning, right? So I was assigned like these validation QA sort of projects, which was a new world to me also, right? Like, which is you learn to sort of understand how to see patterns in some issues that you are facing, right? You try to see like what exactly is failing and where, try to find the root cause. So the concepts like root cause analysis, the concepts like data analysis, pattern recognition, right? Those I developed in Accenture, right? And those really, really helped me. So, in terms of like learning data analysis and Python, right? So, I got introduced to Python back in Accenture, where I used to write scripts to automate certain parts of the workflow, right? So, to code in Python, to write scripts in Python is also the foundation of data science as a career, right? So all of that came from Accenture and which helped me greatly in my career.
That's a great insights into our transferable skills. Building on that, you had the unique experience of working in both the Indian work environment at Accenture and the US landscapes at Walmart and Amazon. From your perspective, Avanti, how do the opportunities and challenges compare when working in an Indian venture and the US?
Yeah, that's a good one, right? So there are fundamental differences in the culture, in the way we are, right? So I think the pro in like working for an Indian company is that you understand each other, right? You sort of know what the other person is saying most of the times, right? When you're working in that setting, because you all come from the same sort of culture, right? Over here, it's a little bit more of like you need to take more efforts in understanding what the other person is saying, right, in terms of the ask that is required. So there are these fundamental differences in terms of understanding each other culturally, right? And the second aspect is also the kind of opportunities, like you said, right? Accenture was largely a service based company, right? The opportunity for like innovating something was limited, right? So you could like automate something and that could be like a super good achievement for you, right? But over here, the opportunity to innovate or to own your tasks, right, is pretty good. So here, I think the culture of the teams here is more individualistic and independent. So you are basically given something and you're asked to solve it. How you solve it, that's up to you, right? So especially in data science, right? So it's like you're not given a clean data set to work with, right? So in real companies, you actually look for your own data, you see what is relevant to the analysis that you're trying to do, right? And you come up with those pointers, right? That this is what I need to do, what are the recommendations that you would like to give, right? So it's an open ended sort of a culture, right? So there are certain tasks that you need to do, like administratively, certain development things, right? But especially in data science, it's more about like understanding what the problem is, what kind of insight can you provide, right? And the opportunity to explore that, I think, is big right here, especially now with AI, right, coming in.
So now let's shift gears to provide some practical guidance for our audience. So for many of our listeners aspiring to work abroad, your journey is incredible inspiration. How did you specifically prepare for your first US-based internship or job?
First internship was a daunting task, right? Because you come with like a couple of years of experience, and that's not really enough for you to, for hiring managers to notice you or for recruiters to notice you, right? So I think the way it worked for me was like insane amount of networking. I remember like, and here the LinkedIn culture had begun back in 2016, 2017, right? Even before that, right? So when I came in, I had like about 100 connections on LinkedIn. But by the time I found my first internship, I had around 1,500, right? So you can imagine like the amount of networking that goes into, getting anything that you want, right? So my first internship experience was more about like, getting something out of my summer, right? So it was a small company called Telenav. Now it's doing pretty well, but it was like an autonomous driving sort of a company back then, and I was hired as a data science intern. But I remember the amount of applications, the one key thing, and I think I noticed that in you, and I mentioned it to you as well, is persistence. Right. So you approach someone, you don't get a response, you approach them again, right? In a couple of days, you follow up, right? So I think applications is like one thing you keep on applying, but like reaching out to people who are willing to help you, that is also something that really helped me land that first internship.
Yeah, excellent advice. Looking back, what were the most effective ways you built your data science foundation earlier on your career?
Yeah, that's a good one. So when I knew, right, that I wanted to apply for masters in data science, I knew that I want to do a masters in data science. That's number one, knowing what you want, right? Second is try to prepare for it before that. So I remember I took a course on Udemy. So I already had basics in Python. I learned that from Accenture, but I wanted to see how Python can be used for data analysis, right? And I remember I took a course on Udemy by Jose Portilla, and that was a big one at that time, in 2015, 2016. I paid for it. I paid for that course, and I took that course end to end. It was like a 3 month, right? So that was my way of preparing and getting an edge, right? That, okay, I can do this before anybody else, so that I can, focus on other things when I come here. Right. So that was something that I did. Also, like reaching out to people in the similar field, right? Try to see what they are doing, right? So that was something that I did as well. Try to look for companies that are doing what you want to do, right? So back then, since I was coming to Seattle, I knew of Amazon, right? So I researched a lot on that company, try to see what real world data science problems they work on, right? So doing all of that, I think, significantly helped.
Yes, those foundation steps are so important. Okay, so for Indian students specifically, aiming to break into a global data roles, what technical and soft skills do you believe they should prioritize developing it?
Yeah. So if you had asked me this question a few years back, my answer would be different, right? But now with AI and everything that's going on in our industry, I think it's become even easier to sort of prepare yourself in the right way. And I think like foundational skills of data science are statistics. You familiarize yourself with the principles of statistics or probability of data analysis using Python or R, like you can use any language. Try to see what the real world problems are, right? Try to work on Kaggle data sets, right? Try to get your hands dirty in real analysis, right? Analytics vidya is something that I used to refer to a lot, and use AI to build these solutions, right? I think like what differentiates a data scientist now compared to a few years before is what you can build, right? What insight you can bring. So there will be data, there will be analysis, or AI will automate all the coding for you. But you as a data scientist or you as a human would look at that data and try to get an insight that's useful for the business. So try to sort of hone that skill. How do you recognize patterns, or how do you sort of extract an insight out of whatever you're working on, a recommendation or an insight, right? So those kind of skills I think people should focus on when aiming for these kind of roles, globally or like locally, right? This is what will make you stand apart from the crowd. That's what I think.
Yeah, that's a very clear roadmap. Okay, so, Avanti, drawing from your extensive experience, what's one common mistake you often see early career data scientist makes, and what's your advice on how they can avoid it?
So I think as early data scientists, right, like first our aim is to sort of get a job. And then our aim suddenly becomes to get a promotion. But there are things in between, right? That you want to contribute to something. So, what I've seen, and I've also made this mistake, that you don't focus on the problem that you have at hand and get the best solution for it, but you rather focus on what is next. How do I move to the next step, right? So, before that, I think you should ground yourself in the data. Also, like one mistake I see people do is not doing enough exploratory data analysis, right? Directly jump to the model or like a visualization, right? But let's see what the data is telling us. Are there any nulls? Are there any missing data? Are there anything that's obvious in the data that you don't even need to analyze? So those kind of things I think we fall prey into as early data scientists.
Yeah, a very valuable warning, I can say. So, let's bring it to the present now. For our listeners who are curious, what does a typical day look like for you in your current role at Walmart?
So right now I'm at a senior tech lead sort of a position in Walmart. So my typical day is designing architectures for the projects that are coming up, right? So let's talk about a typical day. So today is what, Wednesday. I just had a meeting with my Indian sister team on like the architectural discussions, right? What we should do. So for us is like how do we narrow down the right architecture for this? What frameworks we should use, LangGraph, Google ADK, or like Crew AI, something like that, right? So discussing on those things and then coming up with a roadmap for the team, right? Like what is it that we will prioritize, what we will say it's low priority, let's focus on that later. How do we build an entire system from like development to deployment in production? So that's my role. I also contribute hands-on in terms of, how do we develop this module that we want to crack? So those kind of things, having like leadership discussions with leadership on like where we want this project to go, right? What is the long-term vision, things like that. So I think those are some of the things that I focus on in a typical day.
Yeah, that's give us a great sense of your daily responsibilities, Avanti. So, data science often involves translating complex concepts from a diverse audience, I can say. How do you effectively communicate technical results to a non-technical stakeholders? Do you have any favorite storytelling tips or frameworks you follow?
Yeah, so for me, right, it's about the takeaway that you want to convey. So when you are thinking of presenting something to your stakeholders, there's one thing that you need to discuss before with your team or within yourself, if you are the only one presenting, that what is the one thing we want the stakeholders to take away, right, from this discussion. So if it's a 30-minute discussion and your takeaway is that the stakeholders should be convinced that this results in this much incremental revenue, your solution results in a 5 million incremental revenue every year. So that should be your in your mind, that this is what you want to convey. And then you start with problem. Why is this problem important? Why is it important to measure something? And then you move on from there. So storytelling, as you said, like is the key piece of it. You start why something is important, and then you deep dive into data, and then you sort of have that takeaway for them. So but that takeaway should be at the crux of everything that you are saying in that meeting. So why is this specific problem important? What have we done? What could we do more? What are the limitations of this analysis? What are the strengths of this analysis? And what we have got so far. So I think these pieces, along with like genuineness, is something that you should have as a data scientist to convince your stakeholders. If you say like, okay, you're just flexing your muscles all the time, that okay, this is what we've done, and this is what it results in, you don't build that trust with your stakeholders, right? Because nothing is perfect, no analysis is perfect. So recognizing those things, adding that in your storytelling framework is something that I would follow right now.
Yeah. Storytelling is truly a superpower in a data science. Okay, so Avanti, have you ever had a data project fail? And if so, what incredible lesson did you learn from that experience?
Yeah, it fails all the time, right? So I have 100 ideas in a day, and 90 of them are not even worth it, right? So, firstly, recognizing that not all projects have to succeed, that is one thing, right? You and data science as a field is about experimentations. You work on something, doesn't work, you work on it again, you iterate. So, it is an iterative field. So for me, multiple projects have not worked out as I had planned. I would not say failed, but it didn't, like, probably didn't have enough adoption, right? Or probably didn't have enough traction in terms of that we want to take it to the next level. So these things like this happen, right? The way to sort of deal with it is learn from it and apply it to your next project.
Yeah, so moving forward, Avanti, for a student in India who is specifically aiming for a US data role, beyond just developing skills, what essential step should they take?
What I had done, and it might be different since been years since I've come here, right? So apart from like developing skills, what you need to do is narrow down the universities that you're interested in. So because not all data science programs are the same, not all universities are the same, and you sort of need to make a list of the universities that you're interested in that offer the program that you're interested in. Second, like, try to arrange for finances. So different universities, like, they lay out on their websites like what are the scholarship offers that they provide, right? So let's go through those scholarship offers, like whether you are eligible for them, got like the loan that you would need to take, right? So those are the basics, right, of you coming to come abroad for an education. And then there are some entrance exams required for a few universities. When, at least when I was coming, GRE was compulsory. Now they've sort of waived off some of the requirements for GRE and TOEFL, but those are the exams that you need to prepare for. It took me like 3-4 months to prepare and give it as those entrance scores. So those are pretty important. Apart from that, I think having some mentors to help you guide through the application process, that is also something that you would benefit from. So look for people who are your seniors, who've been to the same university like you have, right? And try to build a connection with them. Try to understand what their journey was like. So I think these things will definitely help you prepare to come here.
Yeah, that's a very concrete advice I can say. So, in today's dynamic learning landscape, many people pursue additional qualifications also. Okay, so from your experience, do certification and online courses actually help in applying for jobs?
So even if it doesn't help in you landing a job, actually, right? It does help you build your own confidence. So to say that you can crack this interview. So for example, if it's like a Gen AI engineer role that you're applying for right now, right? If you take a course on prompt engineering, if you take a course on RAG systems, right? If you take a course on land graph, land chain, it will definitely help you build that confidence to say that I know about this, I can answer questions related to this, right? And also give some amount of confidence to the interviewer as well, that you are not saying things in the air, right? You have some grounding that you have done, you've taken some efforts, right? So it shows, definitely, it shows that to the interviewer. So I think, yes, taking courses is always like a good idea for your own self development.
Yeah. So, Avanti, any specifically, I want to talk with you on this certification, that is the Coursera's Retrieval Argument Generation, that is RAG certification, has been gained traction. Can you talk about that certification and whether you believe it's helpful for career growth in data science?
Yeah, absolutely. So, with the advent of, like, and the boom that AI is seeing in these times, right, is unprecedented, right? Like, it would be naive of us to underestimate the revolution it's about to bring. And only reading about it on LinkedIn or like going through some courses like that, it is not sufficient. So I think we actually develop an intuition of how things are working when you work on it hands on. So this course on Coursera, the rack system course, was about that, on how to like develop a rack system on your own in a hands on way. So I went through the course. It followed the steps of like building a rack system on my local, that was thing. But then I also like the learnings and built a small rack system on my own organization's data. A small project, right? It was not a big one, but it helped me sort of speak the language. Number one. Number two, it helped me gain an understanding of what does it really do. And I think you only get that when you work on it, right? Not only about reading about it. So I think that was something that course really helped me gain that understanding. And we as data scientists, we have to keep upskilling ourselves. So I think that is a step in that direction.
Yeah, that's very helpful for those who are considering it. So, Avanti, for freshers trying to make their mark, what kind of projects should they focus on to really get noticed by repeaters?
Again, like this answer is different from what it would have been a few years back, but even with like AI coming up, etc., right, it has to be rooted in the foundations. So what are the data science foundations? They are good statistics, good amount of learning in terms of analysis and visualization, experimentation, right? Those are the basics of science. Algorithms, right? Machine learning algorithms that are rooted in regression and rooted in like sort of logistic and linear regression, right? So in one of my posts on LinkedIn also, right, like I think I've mentioned this, that try to code these algorithms from scratch, right? So to get a good handle on this. So once you code an algorithm from scratch, like for example, I had worked on a gradient descent algorithm while I was in the University of Washington. Our professor had asked us to, as a part of an assignment, to code it from scratch. So we got an understanding of how the algorithm works. So I would advise that try to build something from scratch, right? And when it comes to traditional ML, when it comes to AI systems also, try to understand the basics of transformer, right? What are transformers? What was that paper? Attention is all you need, right? What are the basics of that, like the recent reasoning models? What is it trying to do? So understanding the foundation of these things will definitely give you an edge over others who are trying to do the same thing.
Yes, yes, yes. Project choice is definitely key. So, common confusion for many aspiring data scientists is whether to pursue a master's degree in India or go abroad for a career in data science. What's your perspective on this?
So it comes with its own pros and cons, right? I think when even I was considering coming here, I was thinking about this, right? That in India, you're closer to your family. There are many opportunities in India as well, right? The way it is, the even the AI adoption is growing in India is commendable, right? The next 10 years look very very bright for India. Having said that, over here there are pros and cons. Pros are like you earn more money over here, you have a good better lifestyle over here compared, but it all comes with its own struggle, right? There are these immigration challenges right now that you probably like don't want to navigate, right? So for me, when I took that decision like 10 years back, my considerations were different, but now if I have to take that decision again, maybe I would stay in India and explore what it offers back there, staying closer to family. So I think you get that perspective after a few years of experience, and like each person will have their own journey. But I think we should like think about it not just from like, okay, this is abroad and I want to go there, but more in terms of where will you have a fulfilling life eventually.
That's a decision many struggles with. So your insights are valuable. So Avanti, when it comes to interview or data role, what's your top one interview tip? And are there any red flags you advise candidates to watch out for during the interview process itself?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one, right? Because I am myself like a struggling interviewer. I suck at interviewing, right? Because the thing is, interviewing is a separate skill, right? So there are your data science skills, your craft, but with interviews, like you have to be very, very good at communication, right? What you're trying to explain to the interviewer. So although like given a problem to you, you will solve it in a couple of hours. In an interview setting, that's a different thing. So one tip that I would give to all the candidates is try to do as many mock interviews as you can. So that gives you like a feeling of what it will be like in an interview. Do it with friends, right? And if you're earning enough, spend some money on this, right? Because that is the single most thing that can help you to build your interview skills, to give interviews. That's one. So, of course, you know the skills, you know your craft, right? You know the basics, you know the questions that are going to be asked. But how do you communicate that? Practicing that, I think, is most important. And I think everybody should do that.
Yeah, those are amazing tips for the interview success, I can say. So, the tech landscape is constantly evolving at a breakneck pace, I can say. So, Avanti, how do you personally stay updated with these rapid changes and new developments?
Following the right people. So in AI, Andrew Ng, he is the top voice. I follow what he does, right? The talks that he gives. I think deep learning offers amazing free courses, deeplearning.ai. So keeping yourself updated with those things, following the right people that are, so Sam Altman, there is Arvind Srinivas from Perplexity. All these recent technologies that people are building, following them to get your right updates, to know what to learn, right, is important. Technology wise, like agentic is like the it thing, right? It is, everybody is sort of talking about it, on how it will revolutionize the workspace. So learning what it is, what does an AI agent do, right? Having an open mind. The other thing I would say is, not, don't be too attached to your solutions that you've built in the past, right? Appreciate the fact that this is going to be, AI is going to be the new electricity going forward, right? And it is going to affect the way we work. So appreciating, acknowledging that fact, and sort of keeping yourself updated with the recent trends that are going on is beautiful, right? Is the right way to go. Also, yourself adopting these things, right? Adopt AI to build your resume, to code, right? To build a visualization, build an app, right? Vibe coding, right? There are so many things you could do. I try to do some of it. I don't say that I'm doing it all right now, but I think that's the way to go about it, to keep yourself updated.
Yeah, staying current is definitely a challenge.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of current trends, what data science or AI trends are you most excited about right now? And what specifically about them captures your interest?
So one, as I already alluded to, is agentic, right? So what agentic AI will help us do is sort of automate these workflows that were very, very manual up until now, right? So for example, writing SQL, right? Like you have a bunch of data sets, and you on a, as an analyst, like even as a data scientist, you write a lot of queries day to day. Now, with the agentic AI coming up, this will be automated, right? Wherein you ask a natural language question and you get, either get a query or the response itself. So that is something that really excites me, that how much of it will of it will improve my productivity. I think the next frontier of all of this, right, who are data science practitioners right now, is sort of understanding what to build rather than how to build, right? So how to build, I think, will be taken care of by AI, right? With agentic AI, with Copilot, right? With Cursor, etc., right? But what do we want to build? What do we want to automate? And how to build products that are functional and people can use? That is something I think will be the next frontier of it. And that really excites me. Mhm.
So those are certainly exciting areas to watch. So Avanti, looking ahead, how do you see the role of a data scientist evolving in the next 5 years?
That's an interesting one, right? I think like everybody in the tech space, right, will have to learn some product skills. So even as data scientists, we will need to get our hands dirty with the product management side of that. How do you build effect products, right? So everybody is using AI these days, like building applications out of it. But what is meaningful to the customer, recognizing that, helping the business, like what product will bring revenue to the business, what products can we commercialize, those skills I think a data scientist will need to recommend going forward. And I think that's how we all will eventually reach as AI engineers. No data scientists anymore, but we will all be sort of AI engineers, right? Some form of AI PMs, either AI PMs or AI engineers, right? So I think that's where the industry is going right now.
That provides a clear vision for the future of the role. So Avanti, from your experience, do you think the Indian education system educates prepares students for the global tech roles, especially in data science?
Absolutely, yes. So, not really in terms of data science. I think that is on us to learn. But I think what the Indian education system does is pair you to solve problems. And that's what eventually matters, even when you learn data science and when you become a data scientist, right? What is your mindset about solving problems? So, I think the Indian education system, it helps us to get there. There are pros and cons, and like there are challenges in all sort of ways in which we educate, right, our children or ourselves, right? But with the given like open source and free resources out there, it will be unfair to sort of put the burden on the education system itself. Like it's so easy now to learn something yourself, watching YouTube videos or like going through a course, right? That it's not sort of fair to hold one body accountable for something, right? So I think the Indian education system sort of prepares us to go look for these things, self educate, and achieve what we want.
So, finally, Avanti, for Indian learners who are looking to upskilling affordably, do you have any specific tips or free tools, online communities, or hackathons they should explore to gain practical experience?
In terms of affordability, right, I think Udemy offers a lot of free courses. So, like, that is something that I used to refer to as a student as well, right? So, Udemy, Coursera, right, they have some free courses available. So, going through that. YouTube, I think, is big, right? Where you can subscribe to a channel and you can access the resources for free, right? Following the right people is key, I believe. So, like looking for those people who offer you genuine advice, right, on how to build solutions. I think Krish Nayak is one big name in the field of
Yes.
data science influencers, right? So I find his videos quite useful. So that Andrew Ng has a bunch of resources on YouTube, right? So going through those things as well. There are like SQL playgrounds and Python playgrounds in DataCamp or in mode analytics, right, where you can get a real interface to work on, right, to practice your skills. So that is something that I would recommend as well. And talking to people like who've established themselves in the industry, right, that helps. That is free.
Yeah, Avanti, this has been an incredible, insightful conversation, and I could talk to you for an hour. I think so. So, but we are going to wrap up with a quick rapid fire round. Just give up your first thoughts. Are you ready for the rapid fire?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, so one word that defines data science for you:
Hard work.
Python or SQL,
Python.
Jupyter Notebook or VS Code,
Jupyter.
ML model or business impact.
Business impact.
First thing you do when starting a project:
Understand the problem.
Kaggle, useful or overrated?
Useful.
One tool you can't live without.
So we have an internal notebook based cloud thing. Yeah, the Jupyter notebooks.
One book every data scientist should read.
The Introduction to Statistical Learning.
How long do you spend on data cleaning?
A lot. 50% of my time.
Artificial intelligence in one word.
Groundbreaking.
One metric you track daily at your work.
Oh, number of meetings.
Big data or smart data.
Smart data.
Favorite Python library.
Pandas. No question asked.
Code or strategy.
Strategy.
One job title that sounds cooler than it is.
AI engineer.
Night owl coder or early bird coder.
Early bird coder.
While doing coding, tea or coffee.
Coffee.
Netflix or YouTube.
YouTube.
Favorite Indian dish.
Pani puri.
Okay, not vada pav.
Yeah, vada pav too, but pani puri first.
If 0 is a false and 1 is a true, what is the 2?
Can't answer.
What is more heavier? 1 kg of data or 1 kg of insights?
1 kg of data, right?
Perfect model with bad data or bad model with perfect data?
Bad model with perfect data.
Would you hire someone with no degree but great GitHub?
Yeah, absolutely.
AWS or GCP?
GCP. That's what I use daily.
Excel or Power BI?
Excel.
College life or work life?
Oh, that's a hard one. College.
Innovation or execution?
Execution.
Have you Googled yourself?
No, I am not that famous.
Ever you cried at your work?
So many times.
Okay, so what was your dream job when you was a kid?
I wanted to be a pilot at one point. But yeah, I didn't have the height or the sight to do that.
If no data science, then what?
Probably like some creative field, filmmaking or filmmaking.
One word for your entire journey so far.
Fulfilling.
If you had to rename AI or AI model, what would you call it?
Random forest.
Yeah. Okay. So, Avanti, thank you so much for sharing your incredible journey, your wisdom, and your invaluable insights with us today. It's been a truly inspiring and packed with actionable advice for our listeners.
Thank you so much, Chaitanya. I congratulate you on starting this podcast, doing it consistently, and being persistent with like lazy folks like me, right? Who don't reply on time on LinkedIn. So thank you so much for having me, Chaitanya.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. I hope you like this podcast. Please let me know in the comment which guests you would like to see on the podcast and any specific topics you would like us to discuss with them. I will try to bring those guests and ask your questions so you will get more helpful information. Before you go, share this episode with someone. It might really help because one conversation can change person's life and give them idea and new direction. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. See you in next video.